Welcome to the instructional video on creating a golf ball in SolidWorks. As you can see here on the screen, this is going to be our final product. This is going to be an exercise in creating different revolved extrusions, both revolve boss base and revolve cuts. During the sketch phase, we're going to be working with our standard sketch tools as well as convert entities and trim entities. During the extrusion phase, we're going to be using new tools, which includes reference geometry, where we're going to be creating axes using the three base planes that exist in SolidWorks already. That would be front, top, and right. We're also going to be working with the circular pattern feature, as well as the mirror feature in order to complete the actual golf ball as you see in front of us. Now let's go ahead and get started with our first revolved extrusion. All right, the first thing you're going to want to do is to go ahead and start SolidWorks. From the home screen, we are going to go to Part. In this particular part here, we're going to be doing our first extrusion, which is a hemisphere. Once we have the work zone pulled up, we're going to go down here to our measurement scale, and we are going to select MMGS. I'm going to go to front plane, and we're going to open a sketch. Go up here to your tools, and you're going to select center point arc. If it's not selected here, you're going to go to the drop down and select center point arc. First click is going to be at the origin. Drag out here to the x-axis. Doesn't matter the length at this particular time. For a radius, we'll fix that later. And we're going to draw a 90-degree arc. Now, if it bubbles the other direction, just continue to go in a circle until it finally does get you the arc that you're looking for. So we're going to go all the way from the x-axis to the y-axis. Click on here. So we have an arc, but we need to fill this in with some lines. From this point, I'm going to right-click, go to my sketch entities, and I can select line. I can also do the same thing by going up here. I'll go ahead and fill in these two lines for the y-axis and the x-axis. So I have a solid object. And click select to lock out of here. Okay, now that I've got my drawing, I'm going to go ahead and go to Smart Dimension. Click on the arc. We're going to use a regulation size golf ball. So in the metric system, the radius is 21.35 millimeters. Once I have that, it's time for our revolved extrusion. So I'm going to click out of my Smart Dimension and go to Features. Click Revolve Boss Base. Make sure it's blind at 360 degrees for our axis of revolution. We're going to use the y-axis. And there is our hemisphere. Go ahead and click the green checkbox. And that is half the golf ball that we require. Okay, now that we have our hemisphere for our golf ball, we're going to have to create a dimple pattern. Now, there's a lot of different ways we can create dimple patterns, and modern golf balls have very, very complex dimple patterns. The dimples are used to provide better aerodynamic stability for the ball in flight, as well as added distance. If we use a smooth golf ball in golf, it doesn't go as far as one that has dimples. Up until about 30 or 40 years ago, no one really paid too much attention to the dimple pattern, how it reacted to the face of the club, the different wind directions, the spin rate, and everything else. That's very well understood in today's modern sports design, so they're able to come up with dimple patterns that are able to eliminate a lot of the accentuated problems of people's swings. But we're going to do a very simple dimple pattern. We're only going to draw one dimple, but we're going to recreate it on several different planes. So let's go ahead and start with just the basic dimple. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to front plane again, and I'm going to hit the space bar. I'm going to go ahead and open the sketch. I'm going to hit the space bar and go to normal, so that I have this view. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here. I'm going to select the drop down because I need to pull something out from this sketch. I'm going to left click on sketch, and I'm going to go ahead and hit the eyeball so that I can see the actual sketch in gray. I've got the line here, and then of course the arc. I want the arc. So I'm going to select the arc. So it should be light blue. Come up here to convert entities. When I click Convert Entities, it's going to pull that arc from the first sketch into the second sketch. I'm going to go ahead and go back to my sketch number 1, left click again. Of course, you can right click. It will just give you some extra options other than these 3. Go ahead and hit Hide. And now I have an arc that's already created for this particular circumference. I'm going to create the dimple up here, so I'm going to zoom in. Start off with a basic line. Go to the point and drag down a line to about 1 millimeter. Right click. I'm going to go to switch to arc. And when I do, it's going to give me this arc, but it's going to give me a bubble arc. I don't want that, so I'm going to mouse back over here to my point. And then when I get close to the point or touch it, it will give me this shape of arc, which is exactly what I want. Come over here and I'm going to click that so it connects. Right click and hit select to shut the tool off. I only need this bit of the arc. The rest of this stuff can go, so I'm going to go ahead and go up here to Trim Entities. Make sure I have Trim to Closest. Come over here and I'm going to click that and it's gone. So I just need just this part. Click out of Trim Entities, go to Smart Dimension. The length of this line is going to be 1 millimeter. Now the length from this line to this point right here is going to be 2 millimeters. I'm going to click out of Smart Dimension, go to Features. We're going to go to Revolved Cut. Blind at 360 degrees, and I want this vertical axis right here. I'll go ahead and turn this to the side so you can see the preview. And when I click the OK button, otherwise known as the green check button, I now have a dimple. It's from this single dimple that all the other dimples are going to be created. Anywhere from 180 to 230 dimples are going to be on this golf ball when I'm finished. Okay, so let's see how we're going to do that. Okay, at this point, in terms of creating sketches and doing extrusions, we are actually finished. However, we're not finished with having the number of dimples that we need. When this golf ball is finished, we should have somewhere between 193 and 225 dimples. But we're not going to have to draw all those individual dimples. We're going to use this one here on a couple of different features to be able to repeat everything that we did, but get the computer to do it instead of us having to do it by hand. We could do it by hand, but it would take a tremendous amount of effort. Also keep in mind that the dimple pattern that we are coming up with is not really a pattern that we would use actually on the golf course. It is a very simple pattern used in the mid-20th century, and it's going to actually accentuate flaws in the average golfer's swing, causing the ball to go off course pretty radically in some cases. Modern golf ball designers have figured out what patterns of different shaped and different sized dimples actually work to lessen those effects when it comes to the average golfer. Okay, as a review, in the Features tab, remember the first section right here has to do with adding material in different ways. The second section has to do with cutting material in different ways. You can't do the cuts until you have the extrusions over here. The third section is modifying anything that's on the extrusions. And then this is just some extra stuff that we can be using. Now, one of the features we're going to be using is underneath here called circular patterns, which is right here. Circular pattern depends on the presence of an axis. We don't have any axes right here that we can utilize easily for what we're trying to do. And what we are trying to do is we're going to copy this dimple on an arc at every 15 degrees all the way down to 90 degrees down here. That's one way we're going to use circular patterns. The other way is we're going to take that pattern once we get here and create a ring all the way around. Pardon me about that. So let's go ahead and use reference geometry, and we're going to create 2 new axes. So we're going to go ahead and click reference geometry. I'm going to click axis. It's asking for a couple of entities so it can create an axis. So I'm going to use my design tree, click the drop down. I'm going to click my front plane first because I need a horizontal axis. I need that axis right there. I'm also going to go ahead and click the top plane. And that's the axis that's trying to create. I need that one. So I'm going to go ahead and click the OK button. I also need the vertical axis. so I can spin these dimples around in a circle. I'm going to go ahead and go back to reference geometry and click axis again. Go back to my front plane. I don't want that one. That's the one I want. So there's the vertical axis that I need. Go ahead and click that. That gives me axis 1 and axis 2. And that's how you create axes in SolidWorks using reference geometry. Now I could create axis number 3, which is this one right here, but it's not needed at this time. Okay, now that we've created our 2 axes, we're going to use them in combination with circular patterns in order to create our dimple pattern and have this repeated. The first one I'm going to use axis 1 for this first exercise. So I'm going to click on axis 1. You can either click it here or you can click it over here. That's the first thing I want to do every time I do this. I'm going to come up here and we'll select circular pattern. A lot of stuff going on over here. A lot of stuff. The first one right here is our reference axis. The reason I clicked axis 1 first before I select this is that this automatically fills. We're going to go ahead and make sure we have equal spacing, and I'm going to go ahead and select 15 degrees. Enter button. I'm going to change to 2. This is always going to be 2 for this first part. Now this part right here is looking for a feature that it wants to repeat. So I'm going to go ahead and come over here and we'll select the cut and right here and click it. As you can see, right now it's created a second dimple right here based on the radius that we have from this point all the way down to the origin. So kind of think of this as a fan. We're going to continue this arc all the way down every 15 degrees. So for the next few minutes, this is going to be highly repetitive. So this is our circular pattern number 1. Once I've got that, I'm going to go ahead and click the OK button. And there's our second dimple. I'm going to go ahead and click on axis number 1 again. Come over here to circular pattern again. Change this to 30 degrees. Come over here. For this area, again, I'm going to select the cut revolve and click the OK. I'm going to click axis number 1 again. Back to circular pattern. Yep, this is going to get repetitive. Every 15 degrees, all the way to 90. Yourself, that's a lot of circular patterns. We're just getting started. I'll try and speed this up a little bit. That's going to be 60. Axis number 1, circular pattern. You can go ahead and click circular pattern, but then you actually have to select axis number 1 up in here. And one more. Okay, let me go ahead and just click the circular pattern without clicking the axis and show you how this works. So as you can see right now, it's looking for something. So right here, I'd actually click axis number 1. I'll go ahead and change that to 90 degrees. And it's already selected circular pattern 5, but that's not the right one. I want cut revolve. So I'm going to come over here and right click and clear selections and hit cut revolve. So now I'm at 90 degrees. You're thinking, wait a minute, it's cutting off half the circle. That's not a problem. It will still cut it. But when we go ahead and make this an actual sphere later on, the mirror image will complete the dimple. We also are going to 3D print this. So when we put the 2 hemispheres together, it'll still match. So that is how we use circular patterns to get our first row of dimples created on the golf ball. The next one will be creating our circular patterns. Okay, now that we have taken our original dimple, we've copied it in the north-south direction. Now what we're going to do is we're going to spin them east-west around axis number 2. So we're going to start off by clicking axis number 2. You can do it here or we can do it over from the list. We're going to select, guess what? Yep, circular pattern. We're going to make some changes. The first change we're going to make is right here at 90 degrees. We're going to change 90 to 360. Go ahead and select my feature that I'm going to copy, which in this case is no longer cut revolve 1. It's going to be circular pattern number 1. As you can see, it's already starting 1 on the other side, but I'm going to need more than 2. I'm going to bump this one up to 6, maybe 7. 6 or 7 would be fine. We're trying to get these as close as we can without crossing over these two lines. If they cross over, the extruded cut has an issue. So I'm going to pick 7. I'm going to repeat this entire pattern all the way down. So I'm going to go ahead and go to axis number 2, circular pattern number 2. I want to increase it. Nope, not there. Increase it to 12, 13, 14. I'm going to try 14, see how that works. Looks good. Axis number 2. Circular pattern. Again, you can go right to circular pattern without selecting the axis, but you have to select it here anyway. I'm going to go ahead and select number 3. And I'm going to bump it up. 21's quite a few, but that'll work. We'll do 21. Go to circular pattern just to show you that I can do this without selecting the axis. I just have to come over here, highlight the box, axis 2, highlight this box, and I want the circular pattern that goes along with this circle right there, which is number 4. Increase this a few more. 24 is a good number to work with. Axis number 2, circular pattern. Again, I'm going to go to number 5. Bump it a few more. The number here is not that important. I got 27, and just make sure, like I said, that you do not cross over the yellow lines on the dimples. And axis number 2 again for the last of our circular pattern. I'll select number 6. And I'll try and squeak in 29. Okay, and that finishes off creating a repeating dimple pattern just with one little sketch. Keep in mind, it started with just that little bitty sketch right there, and then the one dimple. We're able to repeat that pattern. On to the next thing.